5 years ago, Avery and Mark St. Peter were just people that I figured were ordinary folk. I saw them and their boys all over the place here at the church. And then I got to know them. They're extraordinary. About 5 weeks ago or so, I saw Avery and Joe just before or just after a staff meeting. And I said to Avery, you know, you're transitioning out of this position that you've been holding at the church. You need to write down your story. And she said, yes, Jerry, I will. Well, the time period passed for her to write it down. So then I came to her about 3 weeks after that at the next staff meeting, as I recall, and I said, you didn't write it down. So now you got to preach it. I think the spoken word is much more powerful than the written word anyway. I have come to believe and know that Avery St. Peter is an extraordinary person, she and her whole family. She has a wonderful story. Avery, share your story with us.
I'm very excited to be here and share my story today. I'm honored to be part of it, but it's really not my story. It's really God's story. He's just chosen me to share it and to live it. I prayed and prayed that I wouldn't cry during this because, as many of you know, that I have a very tender heart at times, and this is a very powerful story. And I noticed that Jerry stuck these here this service. Did you do that on purpose? Okay, well, I'm going to put them away because I'm going to hold it together. Whoop! I'm going to hold it together, and I won't need them. So my comfort level is definitely speaking in front of teenagers or children, so I'll try not to redirect your attention when you start to nod off. Maddie, okay? Max, listen to that little voice that says, be quiet, okay? So in September of 2010, God called me into ministry here at the church. It was a little crazy since my education was in nursing, as many of you know, and I had no education as far as ministry went. But I said, okay, really? God, you want me to do this? All right. Give me blood and guts and needles any day. But youth ministry, children's ministry, really? Okay. Well, I guess that some days that blood and guts aren't too far from youth ministry, so we were good. So my role was children's and youth ministry director. I wasn't completely comfortable with the youth part of the position, but I knew that the children's part would be perfect for me. And I trusted that God knew what he was doing and that he would help me learn. I worked with Pastor Bernice, and over time, Pastor Bernice and I became really good friends. We thoroughly enjoyed serving the children and the youth of our church, and we had a great relationship, and we had a great thing going. In late spring of 2012, as you all know, God moved Pastor Bernice to a new church, and I was devastated, and I was mad. She and I worked so well together. We helped each other with everything, and she was my right hand, and now I was to do this alone. But as you all know, God stretches us, and he grows us. And I believe that this was a defining moment in my walk with God. Last summer, we were appointed a new associate pastor, Becky Sadler. Becky had many amazing qualities, but children's and youth ministry was not something that God was really calling her to do. So after a few months after Becky was here, I began an intense spiritual journey. It was fall, and I found myself working far more than the 20 hours here at the church that I was supposed to be. Between all the children's and youth ministry opportunities and activities we had going on, I was more than overwhelmed. Jo Swain, our kids club helper at the time, was my saving grace. She was my gift from God. One day, through a total God moment, I was in my office crying, which wasn't unusual for me. I was just overwhelmed. I couldn't take this entire workload. I couldn't take all of the stress. I was tired, I was stressed, and I was mad. I was mad because God took Bernice away. I was mad that we had such a good thing going, and God had to go and mess it all up. Why me? Why now? Why am I doing this? I know that's not true, and I know God didn't mess anything up, but that's how I felt. And Jo walked in, and she was a bit surprised at what she found, which I would be too. She said something like, well, I thought you had it all together. I've been wanting to take something off your plate because I don't want you to get burned out, but you seem like you have it all together. Don't most women want to hold it all together all the time? Then, through several more tears, Joe and I realized that God was really calling her to do more in children's ministry in our church. God really put it on her heart that she wanted to do more. And I thought to myself, what? You want to do more? Who wants to do more? I don't know anybody that wants to do more. But what God quickly showed me was that I took this job knowing that I could do children's ministry. That would be easy for me. And that was my comfort level. But what God did was he used that to get me to love youth ministry. I love youth ministry. And now I have someone right in front of me who loves children's ministry. Okay, if that's not a divine moment, I don't know what else is. So Joe and I went to Staff Parish, and we proposed to divide my position into a children's ministry person, Joe, and a youth ministry person, me. They agreed and thought it was a great idea. We were set. We were ready to go. Joe hit the ground running, and she's been able to do more with this children's program than I think that I ever could have with the two combined. And we need to applaud her for doing such a good job. So if you ever have a chance to see her, stop by and tell her she's doing an awesome job. She needs to hear it. So I was starting to feel better. My workload lessened. My stress level was decreasing. And then one day, Miss Madison Schlafly mentioned that she would like to go to Haiti for a mission trip. I told her that sounded like fun, and I would love to do that someday. Someday is what I said, someday. Well, she, as all teenagers do, grabbed onto that someday and turned it into 2 months from now. Avery, I want you to go to Haiti with me. And I thought, why me? Why am I doing this? I'm not really that adventurous. I'm not ready. And I have too much to do. I have too much going on. I have 4 children. Well, one day I was praying about whether or not I should go and if this was God's will to take me to a third world country. And I was in my car, and the song Strong Enough by Matthew West came on. And I knew that God was telling me that I wasn't strong enough to do this on my own, but he was strong enough for the both of us, and it would be okay. And that happened to be a Wednesday, and we had youth group that night. And what Maddie doesn't know is that she came into youth group, and she was singing Strong Enough by Matthew West. So, well, here's your sign, and you might be a redneck if you can't read it. I knew that was my sign that I was supposed to go. So I said, all right, I can do it. So we made plans, and there we were 2 days after Christmas in 2012, and I'm sitting in an airport getting ready to leave the country. Well, the snow didn't allow us to leave. Our flight was delayed by days because of this big snowstorm, and our trip was canceled. Phew, I was relieved. I was actually honestly excited that I had a sense of relief. See, not me, God, not really me. God hadn't really intended on me doing this. And then the first thing out of Maddie's mouth was, I'm going the next time and you're going with me. And I thought, seriously? Me again? There's so many other people that you could ask. Your parents could take you. There's so many other people in the church. And on our way home from the airport, all I could think was, this won't be me because I'll surely have a diagnosis by then that won't allow me to go. Yes, a diagnosis. I'd found a breast lump several months prior, and I'd been to see the oncologist several times, and then they were watching it. It had started to grow, and they decided the best thing to do was a biopsy. So I was scheduled to have that done a few days after returning from Haiti. Talk about a why me moment. Why me with 4 kids, a wife, a mother of 4 children. I'm supposed to leave the country, and I have to deal with this. While in the meantime, I was getting into the swing of things with Joe doing her part and me doing mine. Things were working out pretty well, and I was very thankful to not be doing everything anymore, but I felt like God was trying to tell me something, and I just couldn't figure it out. I started feeling like I was again spending more time here than my 20 hours a week. I had all of these ideas and plans and things that I wanted to do with the youth. We had our youth service in the spring, and it took a lot of time, and I started feeling like I just needed to give 100% to my family and not give them the leftovers of me. But I didn't understand because I know in the Bible